If you're not taking your exercises to failure or close to failure, then you're leaving a lot of gains on the table. But deciding what exercises you can take to complete failure and what exercises you can take close to failure is something that trips a lot of people up. Let's go to the whiteboard. One of the best ways I think I can put it is in a graph. Up here is training to failure. True failure, this is not even close to failure. That's a 0 out of 10. And then along here, we have risk of injury. But another way we can think about it, around. Find out. Every exercise that we do when we're working out sits somewhere in this graph, and we're going to go through some examples as to where they sit on the around find out graph, and then talk about the underlying principles which influence where they sit on this graph. So first of all, there's some exercises that when we train them really close to failure, the risk of injury is still very low, and these are often isolation exercises. Bicep curls, dumbbell tricep extension, forearm curls, leg extension, leg curl, standing calf raise, dumbbell lateral raises, anterior lateral raises, tricep push down, tricep cross cable extension. This is where exercises like this are sitting. Then, as we come across to here, the risk of injury starts to go up if we take it to complete muscular failure. And these are somewhere in between the final point, where if we go to complete muscular failure here, we really find out. And that's where the risk of injury is very high. So first of all, let's go here. The exercises that are very high in terms of getting injured are things like your squat, your deadlift, your bench press, leg press. If you're gangster enough to do it, the overhead squat, front squat, Romanian deadlift. I'm not saying that these exercises are unsafe, but if we go to true muscular failure, not, oh, I can't do it, I'm just gonna put it down. True muscular failure is where you literally go until you can't go anymore. If you're doing that with the squat, you better hope you're in safety racks. And if you're not, you better hope your spotter is equipped with how to spot with the correct technique, because a lot of people screw it up. Or you're gonna have to know how to bail the weight off your back. Deadlift. If you push yourself too close to failure to get that weight up and you're at true muscular failure, you're going to have to get that hunchback out and try to deadlift it up with your lower back. No good. Risk of injury, too high. Bench press, if you don't have safety racks, if you don't have a spotter, you're gonna get squashed. Leg press, you're gonna get squashed. Overhead squat, that's so complex. The weight's above you. You're probably gonna get squashed as well. Front squat, you're gonna fall forward. Romanian deadlift, you're gonna pull it up with your lower back. These exercises, these big compound exercises, very well known, but using a ton of muscle, these are not the best to take to true muscular failure. Now, in between here, in between isolation exercises and the big compound exercises, we still have compound exercises, but it really depends on how you execute the exercise. For example, you have your dumbbell chest press. Dumbbell chest press, you have your dumbbell overhead press, lunges, split squats, step ups. Exercises such as these, you're not in a massive danger of injuring yourself, but it can just get a bit awkward. Step ups, it's just gonna be a bit awkward. You're probably not lifting enough weight to get squashed, but you're probably gonna have to settle your feet somewhere. Dumbbell chest press, you can kind of just drop the dumbbells. Obviously, that's not the ideal situation. You have to be that guy in the gym dropping dumbbells, but if you have to and you go to true muscular failure, you're doing dumbbell chest press or you're doing dumbbell chest fly, dumbbell overhead press, you can get the weights down in a safe way. Now let's look at the underlying principles that we have to consider whether we're taking an exercise to true muscular failure or close to failure. The first one is how many muscles you're using. If the answer is 1, as you can see, it's generally safe to take it to complete muscular failure. If you're doing a calf raise and your calves literally can't go up anymore, you just step back and you're out of the calf raise. You're completely safe. You don't get squashed. Nothing bad happens. If you look at other exercises like the deadlift, how many muscles is that using? All right, let's check. We have to push the world away at the bottom. So we're using our calves, our quads, our glutes, our inner thigh, our adductors. Our lower back's isometrically tensing throughout the entire exercise. We're already at 5. We haven't even mentioned that our back is tensing the entire time. You're using at least 6 or 7 muscles when you're deadlifting. If the amount of muscles that you're using are very high, it's probably better not to take it to true muscular failure, but take it close to failure. You can still train really hard with 1 to 2 reps in reserve. That's enough to stimulate muscle growth as well. Just because you're not training to complete failure like a gym bro, yeah man, let's train to failure every day, all day, every day. You don't have to train like that. Close to failure is just as good, if not better, than training to complete failure in the right scenario. The second question, will I get squashed? A better way to put it is, what training apparatus are you going to use to do the exercise? Chest press machine, even though this uses a lot of muscles, you have your chest, your triceps, your shoulders working in the chest press machine, it's completely safe, because as soon as you fail on the chest press machine, you just step off. You're not going to be injured. So training with machines can also be a very safe way to take it close to failure. Same with the shoulder press machine, the lat pull down machine, the seated row machine, seated leg curl machine, leg extension machine, the 45-degree back extension machine. These are all very safe to take to complete muscular failure, even though they use more muscle group than one, except for the leg curl and the leg extension in that example. example that I just shared. The third question that you can ask yourself is, how much weight am I using? If you're using a lot of weight, obviously, if you bail on that weight, it has to go somewhere. If you're on a chest press machine, that's fine. It just goes back. If you're on a shoulder press machine, that's completely fine. If you're squatting and you got 150 kilos on your back and you're about to do some reps, you have to be careful if you're going to complete muscular failure. Once again, injury risk. Lastly, how are you feeling? We walk into the gym, every day we feel different. Some days we've slept 10 hours, we've had an awesome meal, pre-workout's kicking in, we've had it 45 to 30 minutes before. As we're going to the gym, our energy's just ramping. Weights are flying on days like that. But some days you've had a shitty sleep, you've missed your meal so you're hungry, you ran out of pre-workout, there's no coffee shops open, you go into the gym, you're raw, tired, you're feeling flat. Weights on those days feel super heavy. So if you're gonna go to complete muscular failure, taking all of this into consideration, if you're not feeling your best, you have to be aware that your ability to train closer to failure is probably a little bit closer to home. So your personal best weights are going to be very, very far away. So if you're like, yeah, I'm squatting, I can usually do 170, I'm gonna do 160 today, it's gonna be all good. That might feel like 170 today. You gotta consider how you're feeling on that day when you're training. Before we wrap up, I'm gonna give you a couple of facts in terms of how close we actually want to train to failure on a weekly basis. And this is the way that I coach my client at Team Brock Ashby that I run. In the first week of the training program, I like to train around 3 reps in reserve. That's 3 reps away from complete muscular failure for all exercises. And that's a very safe thing to apply throughout the week and throughout the program. And then when we go into week 2 of the program, so it's a 4-week program, we start to ramp it up and we do around 2 reps in reserve. We're training 2 reps away from failure on every exercise. On the 3rd week, we're doing 1 rep in reserve. So our intensity is increasing, we're lifting heavier weights, we're getting more comfortable. And then on the 4th week, we train balls to the wall, 0 reps in reserve. With that, with this knowledge that you now have, on your final week of the program, when you're going for it, because you know the next week you're going to 3 reps in reserve in a new program and you're really just going for it and you're really applying yourself, keep this in mind. If you see a 0 reps in reserve squat, that doesn't mean you squat until you drop, literally, or are forced to drop from the weight. You squat still with around 1 rep in reserve. You're going to as close as you can to failure on the squat, but you're not going to complete muscular failure where you can't get up. So keep that in mind. That probably doesn't need to be said. You're pretty smart individuals, but it's worth saying. So I cover my own. Now let's talk about injury risk. When you're young, when you're training, nothing seems to injure you, and it's all good. Instead of training with good technique, you just muscle the weight up, or you use your joints and connective tissues, which you'll pay for later, which is what I want to talk about. Injury risk is very important. You might think it's a bit of a pussy thing to not train to failure because I didn't train hard, bro. But training close to failure is almost better than training to failure, because when you train to complete failure, as you see, your injury risk goes up. But if you train close to failure, you decrease the injury risk that you have with training. You focus on training with good technique so that when you do train closer to failure, you have a higher chance of preserving injury. And also, you spend more time in the gym. When you get injured, sometimes that's it, especially if it's your lower back. And I've been there before. An ambulance had to come to my house when I squatted funky. When you're not injured, you're going to the gym. When you're injured, you're out of the gym. It sounds like super basic shit, but it's very important. Training smart doesn't mean you're a weak ass pussy. Training smart means you can probably be stronger than those people that are calling you a weak ass pussy. And keep this in mind, when you're training for strength, so to actually be strong, it's actually okay to be quite far away from failure. Like powerlifters, the strongest people in the gym, their job is to be strong at a bench press, strong at a deadlift, and strong at a squat. They're not training at 0 reps in reserve every single week. They're training quite far away from failure, because being strong is also a skill. So they're working on their technique and they're mastering it, and they're intelligently programming their workout program that they're doing to be strong in the long run. And we can take a page out of their book and learn from that. Yes, if we're bodybuilding and we're trying to build muscle and get jacked and be lean and all that type of stuff, it's important that we train close to failure to stimulate growth. We're not trying to be the strongest people on the planet, we're trying to build muscle. But it is cool to be strong. And keep in mind, it is very possible and even better to get stronger when you're not training at 0 reps in reserve. That's it, folks. If you enjoy this type of educational content around training in the gym and around body transformation, this is what I do at Team Brock Ashby. Clients of mine all around the world get access to educational videos just like this to help them get results. And not just 8-week challenge, 4-week challenge results, but results for the long term, because not only do you get workout programs and nutritional guidance and accountability and support, but you also get education that stays with you forever. I'll see you in the next video.